How many veterans do we have in here today? Could please stand. Thank you for your service. If everybody else will stand, I'm going to ask Stephanie if she'll lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance this evening.
First of all vets hand salute. Salute. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Let's see. We have a couple civil servants, public servants here this evening. I know it's John Dukes, City Councilman, Yuba City Councilman, and current Sutter County Supervisor Stan Cleveland. And we have our retired auditor controller, Robert Stark. And we have a lot of candidates for City Council, so we'll introduce them in a minute. Did I miss any other public servants in here?
John Buckland.
Oh, John Buckland, I'm sorry, is the sitting Yuba City Councilman. I'm sorry, John. Any other ones? Okay, we'll move on. In the back, we have Melinda in the back, and she has some damsel in defense, the zappers and stuff. Just some good stuff, ladies' self-defense items. So please see Melinda. I'm going to go over some of the announcements, and while I'm doing that, I'm going to ask Mike and his crew if they could help us out. As you know, we're a 501c3. The only funds we get are through your generosity to pay our rent, our insurance, and for the different events that we do. And our funds are getting really low. So we would appreciate any help you could give us this evening. Some of the announcements, as you know, every Saturday morning at the Dancing Tomato at 9 o'clock, we have a coffee clutch, and everybody's welcome. And it's been pretty lively. It's good conversation and good company. The Sutter County Board of Supervisors, no meeting this week. Yuba County Board of Supervisors, they have a meeting at 9:30 tomorrow morning. And there wasn't much on their agenda. I think they're going to acquire some property for a community park in East Linda. The Yuba City Council meets tomorrow at 6 p.m. and they'll be spending some more money. $145,000 on a crane service truck, and also an item near and dear to my heart, expanding the sphere of influence. And I won't get into that, but the best I could figure out, the first meeting they had 41 landowners out of 314, and or actually they had 83 out of the 314. 41 of them approved the expansion, which means more than half disapproved, but they're going to do it anyway. And my personal two bits is that I'm in the sphere of influence now out off George Washington. And my bone is that I have absolutely no say in what they do in that sphere of influence. I can't vote for city council, but yet they've rezoned my property because I'm in there, and I'm going to get stuck with the maintenance fees and everything that goes along with the Lincoln East Specific Plan. And I had no say. Some say, well, they had meetings and you go to those. I went to those. Those were Delphi meetings. It was predetermined what the results was going to be, and nobody really got a say except for the consultants. So that's my 2 cents worth. Marysville City Council is also meeting at 6 p.m. tomorrow, and they didn't really have a lot. They had something kind of unique, that they're requesting permission to operate a duck, which is one of the amphibian deals on Ellis Lake in conjunction with the Veterans Day Parade. So that ought to be pretty cool. Encourage people to go to that. So for the Veterans Day Parade, they're going to be doing a little bit extra. And then also, the day after that, Wednesday, the Marysville City Council and the Yuba County supervisors are having a joint meeting, and they're going to receive a presentation on their regional fire study and the findings and make some recommendations. So that'll be Wednesday. Our next meeting normally would be November 3rd, which is the day before the election. So we decided not to have a meeting on election eve so people can do what they want to do, and we figured it'd be pretty low of turnout anyway, and very difficult to get a speaker. So our next meeting actually is going to be the 3rd Monday of November, which is the 17th. In the meantime, go to our Facebook page and like it. It's really likable. And also, we have a web page that keeps you informed on all the events that are coming up. Not only ours, but the city council meetings, supervisors meetings, any events going on in the Yuba Sutter area are on our web page. I'll make one quick announcement before I turn it over to Paul Preston and the panel. And that's the same pitch I made earlier. This Sutter Butte's Tea Party, and in conjunction with Agenda 21 Radio, is sponsoring one of the biggest events ever in the Yuba City area, bar none. And that's our Liberty Tour. And when I say that, I doubt that we've had celebrities of the caliber of Sheriff Mack. He's going to be here Friday, the 14th. Cliven Bundy, we all know who Cliven is, and he will be here in person Friday. We've got Claire Lopez, who's a retired CIA agent that stays in touch with what's going on in the world today. We're going to have Larry Pratt, Gun Owners of America. Dan Johnson, who's this 21-year-old kid, just awesome speaker. 21 years old, and he's the founder of Panda. We have Mark Baird, I guess he's the founder of the whole state of Jefferson movement. He's the one that got it going again out of Siskiyou County. Mark Baird will be here. And Assemblywoman Shannon Grove. And we're going to be Skyping Dr. Jim Garrow, who's also a CIA agent, a famous one actually. He was the man that delivered the message for Ronald Reagan when Ronald Reagan was elected president. Before he was sworn in, Ronald Reagan gave him a message to give to the Iranian chargé d'affaires when they were holding prisoners at that time. And prior to the following day, prior to Ronald Reagan actually being sworn in, those prisoners were released. And at the last time we met with Jim Garrow in Reading, he told us what was in that message. It was awesome. It pretty much said, release those prisoners before I'm sworn in, or I'm going to nuke Mecca. And then I'm going to nuke Medina. They released the prisoners. And so Dr. Jim Garrow will be with us. He's an awesome speaker. He's got a lot of stories like that. So at this time, we'll go ahead and, Becky has tickets for this, and I think that we're probably going to sell out. It's going to be November 14th and 15th. The 14th will be at Calgary Christian on Highway 20. The 15th is going to be at Glad Tidings. There'll be a big dinner, tri-tip dinner, at 5 o'clock on the 14th. And most of these gentlemen, including Sheriff Mack and Clive Bundy, will be at the dinner, and you'll have access to them, be able to speak with them one-on-one. And it'll be our VIP dinner, and that is available. Tickets are available from Becky. And we also have a raffle for the big ticket. For $1 each, we're going to raffle off one of the gold tickets, and that gold ticket is for both days. VIP dinner with Clive Bundy, Sheriff Mack, and Dan Johnson, and the whole enchilada. So we're going to raffle one of those off for $1. Yes?
Can I say something just a minute?
Yes?
I don't know if any of you have read this book yet, but Glenn Beck has a new book out, Miracles and Massacres. It's absolutely superb. In the back of it, he has Arthur Stanberry and the elementary catechism of the Constitution of the United States. It is absolutely mind-blowing. 320-some questions and answers for laymen about the Constitution, done 1828. And then also on History 2, 10 things you didn't know about. The first one this year was on the American flag, and it's excellent.
Thank you. Does anybody else have an announcement before we move on? Oh, you did. Come on up. As you know, I think 2 or 3 months ago, we had B.D. Erickson in here, and what he talked about, smart meters and the dangers of smart meters and some of the electrical equipment that was available to mute or neuter the smart meter. And we have one of our attendees, one of our members, that took him up on some of the offers, and she just has a really quick.
Hi, my name's Doris Mitchell, and you all remember when Mr. Erickson talked that night on how to defeat the smart meter? Well, I put a proposal to my grandkids, and I said, check it out, argue with me, and let's see if we're going to do this. I have stats on 3 houses. Actually, stats on 4 houses, 3 of which I have the box has already been installed. But the fun thing is I bought one of the electric magnetic meters, and I also bought one of their little plug-in things. And if you would like to know what the numbers are in your house, see me afterwards, give me a phone number and a name, and I'll make a commitment to come to your house and plug in and show you your numbers. I'm not selling anything, people. I'm just saying let's outsmart this smart meter. It can be done. Thank you.
Thank you. What this equipment actually does is it measures the radiation, it measures quite a bit of stuff, including your consumption. And after the installation of this equipment, the consumption and everything just goes down to pretty.
But I can't tell you about dollars because I've only had it in 2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
So dollars are not a factor at this point.
But the numbers have
The
just gone.
numbers are down, way down.
Yeah. Okay, at this time, if our candidates will come forward, we're going to go ahead and get started. Mr. Preston will be our moderator this evening, and I'm going to turn everything over to Paul. It's Paul Preston from Agenda 21 Radio. He made me do it.
I get a script. A radio guy gets a script. Now, those of you that heard my radio show today, I talked about scripts and teleprompters. I hate teleprompters. I can't read from a teleprompter. I have tried. So tonight, That's why we're teleprompter free. Anyway, I had to throw that in before the end of the question and answer period, because that's something I always do. Because I think it is a quintessential important thing that you know that your politicians can speak extemporaneously. I think we've learned that lesson, haven't we? So no teleprompters tonight, sorry. Computers, but teleprompters, no, you won't see them from these candidates. So we really do appreciate that. Anyway, I've got some instructions. Right now I'd like to introduce the panel. Tyrone Schaefer, introduce the panel for the questions. Tyrone Schaefer of the Sutter County Taxpayers Association. Danielle Terry, manager of Shooter's Paradise. And now what I'd like to do is introduce the participating candidates for City Council here in Yuba City. These are done in order of the random draw, which is reflected in the seating arrangement that you see up here. First of all, John Buckland. Second, Preet Didball. Third, Stan Cleveland. Number 4, Daria Ali. And number 5, Jason Reichert. As the script says. I am so tempted, but I won't. So I will not, oh no. See, I will now review tonight's format. The timekeeper is Larry Mertz. Larry will now hold up 3 signs when appropriate. He's going to show you what they look like. 10 seconds, 30 seconds, and that's all, folks. Right there. So you'll get a little bit of a countdown and an idea when to wrap up your answers. I will call on each candidate to give their 2-minute introduction about themselves and their respective campaigns. The order will be the same as the drawn seating order. And hold your applause until all candidates have spoken. Now, after the candidate's introduction, there will be a short intermission for refreshments and a break to collect index cards. Now, this is your opportunity to write down a question for the candidates. Write down a question for the candidates, we put it in the basket, and it becomes part of the questioning for the candidates. All right, here we go. First up, John Buckland.
Thank you. Turning it on might help. Thank you for this opportunity to be here tonight. I'd really like to thank the Sutter Buttes Tea Party for doing this, and Sutter County Taxpayers Association for being in collaboration with one another to put this forum on. I think that it's important that this room has the number of people that it has in it, as you get to make some fairly tough choices here on November the 4th to fill 3 vacant positions on the City Council. You know, Yuba City has a guiding vision, and that vision is that we need to meet the needs of our community through leadership. We need to anticipate the needs, and also that our staff be innovative in the delivery of service. I've led a number of projects in Yuba City. We did the Feather River Parkway, which is on the north end of Yuba City, up north of the 10th Street Bridge. This is an 82-acre kind of a wildlife area, walking area, and it's still under development. But the initial phase of that, I led that through, and also got the second phase funding through our coastal cleanup funds that were available through Prop 84. Also, coming up, our Department of Water Resources, all of our allocations for water, our agreements. We as a city actually sued the state of California and DWR and obtained a very favorable out-of-court settlement on our water allocations. Unfortunately, what can happen is the government, through the strike of a pen, can remove some of those agreements during a drought. And that's what's happened up to this point. But I'd really like to thank everyone that's here, the various groups. There's so much more to be done in Yuba City. I'm looking forward to serving you for the next 4 years.
Preet Didball.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, I want to say thank you to Sutter Buttes Tea Party as well as the Sutter County Taxpayers Association for putting this forum together and having us here and share some of our thoughts. And I want to thank all of you for attending, making time out of your evening to be here. We all have busy schedules, so I know it took a commitment to be out here. So thank you very much for participating. My name is Creek Didwell, for those of you who don't know. I was born and raised here in Yuba City. I've attended all of our local schools, starting all the way from Franklin, Lincoln, Greyhound. I kid you not, I've gone to all of them. I graduated from Yuba City High, so I'm a honker. My daughter is currently attending River Valley, so she's a Falcon. So we have issues when Yuba City High is playing against the Falcons, but we deal with it. I might have to get a t-shirt that's half brown and half green just to decide where I'm going to sit. As a young child, I worked our local fields. I've done prune picking, peaches. I've worked our local cannery. Harder packing was where I worked. I actually did the graveyard shift because sorting was a little bit boring for me. So I wanted to tear down the machines and clean them up and put them all back together. My parents did labor work their entire lives to support 4 of us girls, no brothers. I'm the one that decided to pursue college. I went on to do my associate. Then I did my bachelor's, and I do have my master's in public administration with the emphasis on health. My decision to run for city council was not overnight. This is something that I've worked very hard. Give me the time. I've been a planning commissioner for the last 10 years. 2 of those first years was with Sutter County, and then the last 8 years with the city. Last 2 years I've been the chairperson. I've also worked 16 years with the state, both management and administration. Worked on strategic planning, contracts, budgets, HR. And right now, I just have that time in my life that I want to make a bigger contribution to Yuba City.
Stan Cleveland.
I too want to thank Sutter Buttes Tea Party Patriots and the Sutter County Taxpayers Association for holding the forum this evening. As many of you know, I'm Stan Cleveland, Jr. I've been married for almost 40 years to a wonderful lady named Becky. We have 2 married sons. I have 6 grandchildren from age 18 to 2 years old. I like to believe my wife's and my beliefs and values were the reasons our sons chose their occupations today. One is a deputy sheriff in Sacramento County, and the other is a United States Air Force Tech Sergeant. Has been overseas a lot, but he's finally back in the United States. I currently serve the people of Sutter County's 2nd District on the Board of Supervisors and the Chairman of 2014 Board. Over the years, I've been an employee, an employer, and now a co-owner with my wife of a very successful cottage industry business. I know the highs and the lows of being a business owner and how important good jobs are to people. I also know the burden, the unnecessary regulations and fees are to everyone, and will keep only those fees and regulations that are necessary. It's important for an elected representative to personally know and have experience to the same things the people that elect them have lived through. I have lived that life. I do understand and will make decisions in the people's best interest. I have served on more than 40 local, state, and federal boards, commissions, committees, and representing the citizens of our region. Some of them were not ones that I had to be on, but I have also found that those committees and boards where I really did volunteer was where most best solutions came about. Yuba City needs a councilman who will work with his citizens to find the best solutions for our community. And I hope to show tonight that I am that person. Thank you.
Daria Ali.
Good evening, and again, thank you to the Sutter Buttes Tea Party and to the Taxpayers Association for having this event, and to you for being here to lead this, Mr. Preston, and also our questioners over here. Thank you very much, and all of you who joined us. My name is Daria Ali. I'm a financial representative. I work with Modern Woodman Fraternal Financial, which some of you may have heard of. It's been around since the 1880s. It's a debt-free company with over $11 billion in assets and a wise company that in the last 6 years has grown by $3 billion in assets, debt-free. So it's the type of values that I support and like to be part of. I'm also the CEO, Executive Director of Shady Creek Outdoor Education Foundation. Many of you may recall it as being Woodleaf, where all of your children went to in 5th and 6th grade. And I'm the person who does the oversight on the grants for that and raises money to send students there each year. So I'm new at that. I've been on the board for several years and became the CEO in May. I'm also an ambassador for the Chamber of Commerce. I've been chair of the Chamber Ambassadors, not this year, but last. And I've also been awarded 2 years in a row Ambassador of the Year, which is not a popularity contest. It's based on the amount of hours that I've poured into the community. I'm also, as Preet is, a planning commissioner for the city of Yuba City and have been doing that for 2 years. I'm a governing director for Ampla Health. I've been on the central committee as ex officio. I would like to be part of making a positive difference here in Yuba City. I'm educated, I'm diverse, I'm dedicated, and I'm willing to pour a lot of hours into making a positive difference here and moving the city forward into a place that maintains a rural feel, but develops opportunities that will create an environment to bring our children, educated children, back here. Thank you.
Jason Reichert.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you to all the people here tonight. I greatly appreciate you guys coming out, and you guys are Yuba City. Thank you very much. And also to the Tea Party and the Sutter Buttes Taxpayers Association. I'm Jason Reichert. I'm not a politician. I'm a concerned citizen. And as a concerned citizen, I'm running for city council. I was born in Yuba City. I have a beautiful life there in the back, and I have 2 boys. I love this city and all the recreational opportunities it has to offer. We've got really nice rivers. I use the heck out of them. We go fishing all the time, kayaking. It's a beautiful place to live. You know, I'm really concerned though about the limitations to our river access. We don't have much. Whenever you really start looking, especially on the Yuba River, there just isn't much access. So that's something that we need to be looking at. I know I'm not a supervisor, but we really need to press those guys to look at that access. I began my career in public service as a fireman. I continued that service right here in Yuba City as a building inspector. I was a project superintendent for a local home builder, and I've progressed. Now I'm a project manager. I'm in charge of multi-million-dollar developments around the state, and my projects have always come in on time and under budget. And with that, I will continue that same work ethic for you guys as your city councilman. My experience as a project manager will make sure that all the city projects stay on time and on budget, which really seems to be a problem with city-funded projects right now. I'm familiar with Title 24 specs, have experience working with DSA inspectors, multiple contractors and subcontractors. As a project manager, I have discern with the contractors bids being too high or too low. Being able to qualify contractors is critical for them staying on budget. Thank you.
All right, and thank you, candidates. And right now, what we're going to do is take a 10-minute break. Pause, please. Take a 10-minute break, and this is where you can write out your questions on cards. We'll come and collect them. We'll throw them into the basket over there and ask questions along with the regular standard questions that we have. Cards are in the back. And please, when you're done, hold up your hand. Somebody will come.
They thought we cut pieces out on purpose.
We did.
Let's see, anything on there, it'll run for 3 hours. Anything on there, Bill cuts out.
And I know that they do.
Yeah, I understand, but everybody was talking back and forth.
Yeah, I know, you can still get cut out. It's better than forgetting to put it back on again. Yeah, if something might have happened in between, it would be worthy.
Wrap around here before it gets started. Yeah, yes, you know, it's not a lot of money.
They don't have anything. It's not fair. Yeah, it's not there. And then,
Okay, we have about 1 minute, so let's go ahead and start moving back into our seats, please.
where is she? I don't know.
I used to do that with the boys when I was little.
The girl who's sitting here. She's here somewhere, but I don't know where she went. But thank you for coming over and talking. It's nice to see you. Where are you sitting?
Jason should have
Any other questions? Please hold your hands up. Any other questions? Over there on the left. On the left.
Whoa. How you doing? Hey, John. Oh, you've got it turned off anyway, right? Oh, you turned it off? The AC? Yeah, you turned it off. Let's see if it breaks. Give it a break. Yeah, working hard.
Hi.
Good to see you.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started now, but before we do that, I'm going to plug the Liberty Tour, a non-solicited, non-paid-for commercial. And this is really going to be a fantastic event. I've been pretty excited about this and had the thoughts about doing this for well over 2 years. And finally, we got the people together that would be in the right place at the right time. And some of the topics, just do this very quickly before we get, I know we're getting our questions sorted out there. Some of the topics that we're going to be talking about, and by the way, there is a very strong rumor that Chris Ann Hall will be president. Very, very strong rumor. I'm just going to put the rumor out there and hope that it comes true. Constitutional threats, the whole thing with impeachment in Benghazi, Iran, EPA, IRS, veterans, what's been going on with the Veterans Administration, geoengineering, crisis to crisis, what we've been seeing here from the president, securing the border, it's a big issue, Flight 17, Flight 370, terror threats, ISIS, Ebola, what's been going on with that, the Jefferson State movement, which is a big one, by the way, it's growing every single day, Agenda 21, the illegal immigration, Tea Party movements across the state and the nation. And by the way, one of the biggest movements going on in the nation right now is the Tea Party movement. Don't be fooled. Congratulations. It's growing and growing and growing, and that's why they're whining and whining and whining, because they don't want you to grow. just remember that. And really, I think the fundamental reason why they don't want you to grow is because you're here and you're concerned citizens. That's really it. I don't really care about party affiliation. I don't think a lot of people do. It's just you're concerned about America. And the Democrats are more concerned now than ever about America, by the way. So anyway, enough of that. Tickets are in the back, and we're going to do the raffle right after. Isn't that right, Larry? Am I right? Right after we get done here. So, okay. Where am I at here? Oh, these are the rules of the game. There will be a question and answer period conducted by the panel of two, our representatives over there from the community. There will be questions from the candidate forum debate committee and the audience present. So there's already been a number of questions that have been developed by the committee. The panel will draw each question at random from the hat, or I guess it's the bowl today. Does anybody want to use a hat? If you have a preference for a hat. Maybe we can put the crowd questions in a hat. The panel will draw each question at random from the hat and ask one candidate one question in the order seated. So we're going to start down here with Mr. Buckland. A few questions will be asked of all candidates, and then participating candidates will have 1 minute to respond. After the panel's questions, we will conduct or conclude with a 2-minute closing statement from each candidate and campaign speeches from the audience, and attacks on the candidates will not be allowed. Please do not assist the candidates with the answers. That's a biggie. No prompting. It's happened before. Anyway, okay, let's get on with it. And our first question.
Alrighty, our first question for John Buckland.
would you make to maintain a balanced city budget?
Cuts within the city are difficult because about 75% of our general fund monies are for payroll. So when you start talking about making budget cuts and you're having to reduce the budget, that's within payroll itself. So one of the ways that we're trying to affect a reduction in what our burden on the taxpayer is through our budgeting is to ask some of the employee groups as we go through negotiations for concessions. 3 years ago, we did that with an 18%, roughly an 18% reduction, and that was led by our police department. And then additionally, we have received concessions on a two-tiered retirement plan, and that has upped our age limit for retirement. And then on top of that, we this year have also reduced the amount that they're taking home in pay for about half of our bargaining members so far.
Your question is, what is your position on private property rights?
Everybody has the right to their personal property. And what you do with your property is your right. So basically, that's how I feel on it. You know, what you do with your property is your right. It's your ownership. You do with what you feel is right. That works for you.
This question is for everybody, starting with Stan Cleland. What is your position on giving business incentives to entice businesses to come to Yuba City?
Depends on what you call a business incentive. I do not believe that sales tax rebates should be given and things of that nature that are more or less one-time, an ongoing tax that has to be as part of the primary budget. But when it comes to bringing a business in and there's impact fees that amount to a very large amount, I believe that deferring the impact fees for businesses to over a 2 to 3 year period can have a very strong, good strengthening effect so that they don't deplete their capital investment into a business right away. That's where a lot of businesses fail, is they get in there and they find out the impact fees are a lot higher. They don't have the operating funds left to keep them going during the bad times. And by deferring some of these, that can be a very strong incentive for businesses to survive.
Okay, my position on the business incentives to entice business to Yuba City, I think that we do need to be creative and proactive to attract new business to Yuba City. However, I was very concerned at the request for the Nissan dealership that was coming into town and has come to town, requesting $500,000 in incentives when we had 2 other auto dealerships that had just opened up and hadn't bid for those or asked for those and have been in this community. Perhaps because they've been in the community, it wasn't an option for them, but I do think that a plan to attract businesses is important, that incentives that perhaps reduce the impact fees. However, I think that the impact fees in the county need to really be looked at, and I know that they have been looking at them for several months to lower them. And I think that it should be across the board, and that incentives, if they're going to be offered to new businesses coming to town, should also be offered to some of the businesses that have weathered this past several years, that there should be something creative for them. Thank you.
It's definitely a touchy subject because we have a lot of local business owners that are in business and have been here a long time. And why are we going to give somebody new an incentive? With that being said, on our infill projects, you've all seen the dirt lots around town that are right in the middle of town. That's where the incentive needs to be. If somebody wants to pick up the ball and run with it and build there, then definitely waive impact fees to the extent of putting them off a couple of years, and do something like that. Beyond that, in the sphere of influence where they want to build outside the edges of town and do what they want to do, it's a touchy subject because really everybody else has paid the same fees. Why are we going to give it to somebody new and cut them off and take away from them, our old builders? So what I would say do is we would go ahead and adjust the impact fees on our existing lots to get the town looking decent again.
When we talk about impact fees, we have to remember that we have a governor that took away redevelopment. When we talk about empty lots within the city of Yuba City, there's a number of empty lots inside the city that are still tied up in a successor agency. As a result of the removal of the programs that would incentivize bringing new business and building buildings within the city, that has been taken away from us. Now, how do you find ways to bring a business here, let them build and generate a tax revenue for the citizens of Yuba City so that property is no longer a burden to the taxpayer themselves?
I think to entice businesses to come in here is first of all, look at our fees. Second of all is the application processes when they're first looking at coming into the business to ensure that we're moving through the process as quickly as we can because it's not only their time, but it's also their money. And we're just stalling. So look at the entire process and ensure that we're reacting instead of procrastination. The other ways that we can entice, and I think it'd be a positive for our community, is collaboration for our kids too. Training programs where if new businesses can collaborate training programs along with schools, can we provide them certain types of incentives because they're willing to work with our children so that they can learn a new trade or anything to help them become better citizens and better community partnerships within Yuba City. So those are some incentives that we can look at and kind of be a little bit more on the creative side.
Daria, your question is, should the city be giving out money to any business for the use of renovating the privately owned property?
Well, I'm not sure what you're referring to, perhaps for any privately owned property. If it's a historical building, then there should be federal funding for that. I don't feel that I have enough information in that question to really respond to it effectively. Can I ask a question? Is the property that you're thinking of, and perhaps this will be part of my response, is the property something that is going to serve the community? And it's just a general question. So if it's going to come back and provide something for the community, then it might be something that the city would be interested in looking at. I think that we have an incredible heritage here, and I would like to see that part of it preserved. And if it helps to if it's something that would create tourism or be something that will bring dollars to this community, then I'd say an investment that will create more is a sound investment.
Jason, your question. Should illegals have access to our tax dollars through public schools, healthcare, food stamps, etc.?
Well, they're illegals, correct?
Yes.
Okay, then I would say no. Anybody who's doing anything illegal, or if they're illegal, should not have any right to anything we have or give away or incentives. No.
From the audience, the appealed Democrat printed your answers to the pension and unfunded liability issue. Will each of you expand your answers in a manner we can understand? If you don't have an answer, say so.
Our pension obligation really drew out of the 2008 collapse of our economy, the banking system, where money was being held. As a result of that, the numbers dropped down and we became obligated for the unfunded portion of that. At this day, Yuba City has some $55 million in unfunded liability. Many people say that there is no asset to attach to that, so it's not like a mortgage. Well, I disagree. Employees are an asset. They're an asset to the community. They're an asset because they serve you. And so this is part of doing business. How do we get back to the pre-2008 figures? It's going to take time. We're looking right now at about a 30-year window before we can get that back down to a zero number. The problem that you have is as that is ramped up, we've also reduced the number of people within the city that are contributing to that same system. That's a negative flow opportunity for us to be able to fund that program. It seems counterintuitive that the more employees you have contributing, the quicker you're going to reduce the unfunded liability numbers. So as we can, we need to bring our employees back on. Police department's currently down about 8 employees. We need to get back up to full staffing in police. We have some fire positions down. Those need to get back up, and in other categories within the city. But also we need to continue working on that reduction overall. I got that's all, folks.
Okay, as far as my explanation with the unfunded liability, I had already talked with the budget officer and we had gone through all the numbers. And I was pretty pleased to at least see that there's progression going. And at the rate that the city's going right now, she had indicated that we would look at pretty much looking at a paid-off situation in 5 years. This is with the 2-tier retirement system that's been in place, which I feel is fair. I wouldn't say that I would want to ever take anything away from the employees, the deserving employees who have been there and dedicated a majority of their career to our city to provide us the services. The 2-year system allows the city to offer an attractive retirement package, not only to its new employees, but it also maintains the retirement package and commitment already to the existing employees. So when I looked into it, I felt it was a pretty fair package, the new version.
We need time to get okay. Being a member of the Sutter County Board of Supervisors, we were actually one of the first counties to move towards reforms with our pension. The experience that I have and the knowledge on what to do and when to do it would be an asset if we had to do when and if we have to do more within the city. Many of the things that we've done, Yuba City has been able to do also. The one thing we didn't do was the pension bonds, which for Yuba City it may have been a good thing to have done, but for many of the communities that did that, it turned out not to be a good thing for them to do because they put too much towards into the bonds, and when reductions in interest came in, it didn't work out. I give a very comprehensive list of things that could be done: reduction of benefits, and then making it, instead of being part of the pension, making the benefits actually while they're employed is when they would be receiving the monetary benefits instead of in the future for the 30, 40 years that they would live after retirement.
I'm waiting for Larry. Are you ready? So my response was I had looked at the budget, and I had also looked at some reports that had come from the city manager and various other arenas. There is the unfunded liabilities, which are enormous, and there isn't a quick stop, except that I do believe that the two-tiered system that they have put in place for the new employees will help to curb the problem in the future. It appears that in several years, there will still be an increase of about 10% on the general fund, from 30 to 40%. That will be largely, that 10% is the unfunded liabilities. So there are two options in that. One is to decrease spending, another is to increase revenues. And so I think if we expand the business opportunities, we will increase the revenues and be able to take care of that. I'd like to be part of solving that issue.
I've seen what they're talking about from the city manager also, and they keep saying that it's getting better. But the problem is, it's a 10-year system, and every year it gets farther and farther, and the gap gets wider and wider. And they keep saying it's getting better. It's not, folks. It's not getting any better. Unfunded liability, you can't change when you already promised something and already vested. You can't do that. It'd be like coming in and saying, well, we're going to change your retirement because we don't have the money for it. That's not going to happen. But what can happen is people who are just coming online with the city and just getting these new jobs, they're going to have to take less. And unfortunately, that's the way it is. So we're going to have to look at it really hard and say, you know what, if you're new to the system, you're still going to have a good job, you're still going to have some kind of retirement, but it's not going to be what it was. And that's just the way it is.
Preet, this question is for you. Are you concerned about the increase in police overreach and violence when it comes to dealing with the public, and what, if anything, will you do to stop it? Sorry. Are you concerned about the increase in police overreach and violence when it comes to dealing with the public, and what, if anything, will you do to stop it?
Well, of course, there's going to be a concern. So I think it's reaching out, and the violence is not acceptable regardless. Either way, it's something that needs to be handled and approached and taken care of immediately. And the first thing is, figure out why it's going on with the system.
Question is for all of you. We'll start with Stan. Do you support Sutter County becoming part of the proposed state of Jefferson?
I guess I'm the right one to start with, since I am definitely on record of stating that removing the opportunity of the citizens to have a vote to decide on that was a very big concern of ours, to not remove that. So we, as a board, and actually I was one of the ones that led the charge on it, put together the wording that makes sure that we are interested as a community in the state of Jefferson concept. But when it is brought to us in a very comprehensive plan by, I guess it's Mark Barrett and the crew that are working on these things, that it's the citizens' decision is what it has to be. This goes far beyond the responsibility of a representative of Sutter County. The people, we the people, have to decide that. And that is the time when it needs to be decided. You, the people, will be making that decision.
So I attended a government affairs committee meeting that addressed the state of Jefferson, and I know that I'm only aware that it's a popular movement here, and I understand it's a movement that's been around in various forms my entire life. What became a concern for me in that meeting is that a lot of the benefits that we enjoy, the fact that we have a per capita here of about $500 a person on property tax, and the state average is $900, and we benefit at that level, the $900 per capita. It was a concern of how we would provide services. So that is my concern, is how we would move forward without the monies that are being poured into our communities in the North State now. Also without any education or any higher education, how we would be impacted. All of our students would then have to pay out-of-state tuition. And I think that that's an important thing to be considered. I don't know all the pros and cons, but these are the things that I am concerned about in this.
Well, you all know me, and you know that I support the state of Jefferson 110%. And I do believe that we could make a go of it. And wouldn't it be nice to have a voice and be heard at your legislation and down in Sacramento? Wouldn't it be nice to actually have enough votes to change something in our area? I absolutely support the state of Jefferson. I believe it is the best idea that has come along in a long, long time. And I think everybody in this room probably supports it. And I know even at the Sutter County Supervisors meeting, I've never seen the place so packed. You're standing outside, you're standing outside trying to get into the place. I couldn't even get into the meeting, and I was there about 30 minutes early. I love the idea. I think it's the best thing that's come along.
This movement started in the early 1900s up in Southern Oregon, Eastern Nevada, and Northern California. Just a few of the counties, Siskiyou Del Norte and Modoc, were involved. I think that this movement comes out of the frustration of the Northern California residents and not having a voice in Sacramento. We're the ones impacted by the decisions that are made in Southern California or by the voters within that area. I think in the absence of fair and equitable policies, I think that the movement will continue to grow some strength and move on. I do want to divert from that and just say Yuba City doesn't have a post-retirement health care. It's not offered to the general employees. It's for directors of our different departments, and they only have that until they reach Medicare age. So I do want to correct the record on that.
I know this movement for the state of Jefferson has been going on for quite some time. The research that I've done on it, and my concern would be those programs, those federal programs that currently exist that provide the health care, the education. What's going to happen when all of those are gone? How are we going to provide those services? You know, the social welfare. So I know these are concerns that come up. So I don't know enough about all of the issues, but some of those concerns are when those monies are not there, how are we going to support those services? So, but it is going to be the vote of the people. It's the people that are going to vote on this. So look at everything, all the pros and cons. That would be my best suggestion.
Next question is for Daria. When a politician or government employee is found guilty of betraying the public trust, should he or she be forgiven and given another chance?
My bachelor's science degree is in corrections, and I think that's because I believe that a politician should have integrity. I know it's not existing in a lot of arenas, but I don't think that they're above the law. I believe that they should, if you're going to play the game and commit a crime, then you should pay for it. I like to consider myself to be an honest person, and that's why I work in the industries that I do work in, because I have to be bonded. monitored all the time as a securities rep, so it's important to me. Honesty is very important, and I do think that they should pay for crimes.
This is a long question, Jason. Oh boy. What is your position on transparency on complaints and lawsuits filed against government entities? Should government be allowed to hide information by having the claimant sign a non-disclosure statement?
I'm gonna keep this one pretty short, but it's always been put like this to me since I was a little kid. Every government should be completely transparent. We, the people, should be in charge of our public servants. With that being said, if it's in government and it's secret, it's not good, period. All right.
John, this question is for you. Yuba City owes more than $55.3 million in pension debt to CalPERS. What steps would you recommend to reduce the pension debt?
What has already been discussed is in play to reduce that debt. Part of really looking at the structure of how retirement is offered to the employees. Currently it's offered in 2 tiers. Age groups are much higher, and again, we had a pension obligation bond out there that will be all paid off by 2018. At that point, we were looking at the savings of some of that money to be able to put toward the continued reduction of our overall PERS obligation, our unfunded liability. So that will be an opportunity for us to move forward and get our fiscal house in complete order as we move forward into the future.
Question from the audience. 3, do you feel that donations from labor unions is a conflict of interest when you are in charge of the area negotiations for their constituents?
No, I don't. The conflict of interest would become if you're doing favors, but if they're contributing to a campaign, it's merely to help you on funding, and there's a clear consensus on that, where you do have that conversation. That the funding that's provided, whatever endorsements those are, it's not to say that, okay, we're paying you to do everything on our side. It's to support you in your campaign, and it's very clear.
Dan, and some of these questions seem to be repeats, so if it's something that we've already discussed, answer briefly, I suppose. Do you support or oppose reduction of city building and impact fees to stimulate economic development?
I believe in appropriate and necessary fees for the operation and function of local government. That being said, I believe that the current fee structure on some of the impact fees in Yuba City perhaps are out of line. I've done a lot of interviews with business people and developers that have shown me the bottom line on some of their projects, and then the bottom line on the projects they are doing in Sacramento area. And our impact fees are, and the result of them, are much high enough to where they say it doesn't pencil here in Yuba City. Something's wrong with that, so I plan on looking at it very carefully. And building trade was one of what I was part of before I became a county supervisor. So I think I have the skill sets and understanding to be able to seriously look at this and make a difference and proper changes.
Now, this question is for all of you. What is your vision for Yuba City?
I would like to preserve our heritage, our agricultural lands. I would also like to create a Yuba City that has business opportunities. City council doesn't create jobs, but what city council can do is to create an environment that's attractive to new businesses to come here and new industry. There's no reason that Yuba City could not at some point become the place where the tech people live. There's no reason that Yuba City couldn't be the place where our educated children return. At this time, only 3 to 4% of our educated students from Yuba City return here to benefit the community. And I would just like to be part of that change. I think he's given me just my 10 seconds, okay. So that is my vision, is to create opportunities, which would, it's close to my heart because I have a son who's in the tech industry and is very successful there. And I would like it to be a place where he could come back. There's no reason that they can't do the internet from here. But what else would they do afterwards? So we need to have things that entice families and young people here and an income that will support the lifestyle.
I don't know about everybody here, but I like our small town feel. I like the small town. I think the biggest thing we can do in the short term and even midterm of the city is get our infill projects going. Get the city growing within itself, rather than expanding the sphere of influence and trying to build the city bigger. I think we really need to focus on doing our infill projects. We live in an agricultural community. I think that's what we need to keep it as. That's why we all moved here, that's why we all live here. So I think keeping that feel is more important than anything else we could do. And doing the infill project will bring us some more business. But business, the big business, the techie stuff or any of that stuff, I haven't even been able to work in my hometown since I left being a building inspector. I commute, but I still live here because I love the feel of the small town. I don't want to get away from that. I don't think anybody else does either. We can commute 30 minutes down the road and be in Sacramento and build the things that they need there. And we can also build our infill projects here and have a nice, small hometown.
Yuba City's in the heart of Northern California's agricultural production. We embrace that here. One of our largest employers, SunSuite, is based just on that premise. I think that we need to embrace our surrounding ag lands, make sure that we don't encroach upon them beyond or infringe on their operations when the city does grow. But Yuba City is like no other city. This is a friendly and welcoming city. It does still have that small town atmosphere where I can walk door to door and be greeted on a campaign trail that people are embracing. They can tell me what they think. If they agree with me or disagree with me, I'm good with that. You know, when you talk about our city and our impact fees being out of line, they're not. We're only collecting 60% of what our fee could be. Sutter County collects 100% of their impact fee. When we talk about the sphere of influence, that's not driven by the city. The city doesn't want to grow larger. It's developers coming to the city asking for that. They're asking for an increase in this sphere. So let's keep it true that what is going on here is driven by our community. It's a great community to live in.
Yuba City, the heart and soul of Yuba City is ag. And you know what, we want to preserve that, and we've always wanted to preserve that. The desire right now is also that as we move through our generations, is how are we going to support our kids to stay here? They're going off and getting their education, and how are we going to bring them and entice them to come back so that they can work in our community and not have to commute. I've been a commuter my entire life, and trust me, if I could work here, I would do it in a heartbeat. I went away for college. I know my daughter's going to go away for college, and I would love to have her come back here and be able to work here. That's what I want to see. What I want to see in this community is that we support our kids for the future. We all live this community right now. We need to ensure that we provide our kids a foundation for the future so that this city will continue to thrive. Otherwise, it will go away and it will stay small. We're not going to be able to provide the lifestyle for our children as times change. So we need to be ready for that changing environment. IT, specialty fields, you name it. The education is out there. UC Davis, I went to UC Davis. It's a great ag school. Maybe we can entice our kids to do, upper education in ag and be able to provide those type of things and that higher education right here to our town so that we have bigger production in our ag area.
Well, actually, part of the question was answered for me because in Sutter County, while we do charge 100% of our impact fees regarding, except for the ones that we collect for Yuba City and pass through, there is massive amounts of agricultural building going on and development and processing being built in the unincorporated areas of Sutter County. So our 100% is actually not hampering the growth in Sutter County for agriculture. It's actually we've done such a good job of changing our general plan and allowing business to becoming business friendly that they are expanding at a very fast rate in Sutter County unincorporated ag. So we've already done what I have talked about in Sutter County, I think needs to be done within Yuba City. Infill, which is being talked about by one other member here, is a primary area where I think the impact fees are out of line. I've done interviews, and that's why I feel that it is that way. If you're talking about brand new development, where you're going to be putting all the infrastructure in brand new, yes, it's 60%. The indecisions that were made or were not made many years ago to increase the fees at a good rate during the good times actually made it imbalanced so that when they did put them in, everybody just absolutely went crazy and said it's just not going to work. When the bad times came, they're right. So 60% now is the time that the business can handle it. In the future, doing it correctly will be the way it'll have to be done. But Sutter County did do it right. That's why we are definitely growing. I'd like to try to do the same thing within Yuba City.
Jason, your question. What is your position on Yuba City becoming a charter city?
Well, I don't like the idea of charter cities. I think it works well in bigger cities, but I don't think it's going to work here. I like the idea of our city council making all the decisions, rather as a group, rather than having a mayor make the command decisions and hiring and firing of our local and our heads of our city. I don't think that really works for us. I like the idea of putting it to a council and still having a voice, rather than something close to a dictator, what I consider a dictatorship.
John, are you in favor of a local asset forfeiture ordinance to supplement the law enforcement budget to pay for law offenders being sent from state prisons to county jails?
Right now, we have asset forfeiture laws on the books. It's the state of California allows that. The asset forfeiture that's collected through those operations, through our law enforcement, goes directly to funding operations through our drug task force and gang task force. That's probably the best use of those dollars. To pass a local ordinance, Yuba City's not in the business of doing custody or any type of custody arrangements for its inmates. Those are all handled through Sutter County Sheriff's Department. So there's no need for the city, Yuba City, to engage in any type of additional ordinance building that wouldn't have a benefit or a direct benefit to our local taxpayers.
I've got a question from the audience. I'm just trying to understand one more word before I read it to you. Okay, this is a question for everybody. Sorry, we'll start with Bree. I live near the Feather River, and I have seen many homeless people camping and living in the trees along the river. These people start fires which get out of control and burn many areas. What would you do to help solve this problem?
Well, I know we have lots of homeless down along that Garden Highway strip. I think we don't have the facilities to help. A lot of these folks, from what I've talked to some of the folks involved, like Hands of Hope and so forth, a lot of these folks, they need a place, they need help. And we need to, as a community, probably reach out to provide some type of service. A lot of them are drugs, alcohol. We don't have rehab facilities for them. Something to reach out to provide some type of help, some type of guidance, so that we can get them off the streets. The more they're out on the streets, they become a public nuisance. Because they don't have any place else to go. I think sometimes the fires are started from drugs, cigarettes, things like that. Sometimes intentionally, sometimes they're just trying to keep themselves warm. And the fires get out of control. So if we can provide some type of help, some type of guidance, maybe as a community, we can get them off the streets and work that way.
I was asked a couple of years ago.
That's for all of you.
I was asked a couple of years ago to join the Homeless Consortium, which is trying to deal with this issue comprehensively with all the groups. There's probably 20 members of that, Hands of Hope, Hands Up Ministries, Bridges to Housing, the Housing Authority, the Mental Health Department of Sutter County, and many, many others who are working on this very, very strongly. They have done studies within our area to find out who are truly homeless, who are precariously housed, who are the mentally ill ones that they deal with, who are the drugs and alcohol, the co-occurring problems. We already have a very, very strong effort to at least separate and help the ones that can be helped and want to be helped. We're doing a very good job of that. The ones that cannot be helped or refuse to be helped in those ways are dealt with through the police and the sheriff's department. Unfortunately, we have to deal with them, and through the hospitals. And by the way, they have the same constitutional rights that we do. That is one of also the problems that we have. Sacramento tried to deal with some of their these issues down in one of their camps. They cleaned it out and did some stuff. They got sued. $16 million later, I think it was, they got their camp back and they got punished. Sacramento did. We've done cleanups down there to help them clean up their messes. Sutter County Sheriff's Department and others. So we are doing the job. Are we going to finish with it? No. It's going to be an ongoing issue forever. We just need to be keep on this task and never let it go. And it's part of our society, which is a sad thing, but it's part of us.
I think an important distinction is between the homeless and the vagrants. And the vagrants, I'm sure, are the ones who are causing us larger problems than just the homeless. Most people don't want to be homeless. A sad statistic that I learned the other night at the Innocente Project was that 38% of the state's homeless are between the ages of 14 and 18. In San Diego, they've come up with some programs where they provide housing for those kids and an education and in something to develop their talents and give them an opportunity to earn a living so that the cycle starts to break. We have here in Yuba City many small children and families that are homeless and living along the river. I also don't think they're the ones that are causing the problems. I was concerned myself to go down to the river area where I couldn't walk across the bridge without there being 20 pit bulls there. If I was homeless, I'd want a pit bull to protect me, but all of the things that they're saying about the consortium, I think that we need to consolidate our efforts and, like Stan mentioned, identify who can be helped and help them before it becomes a chronic problem in this community?
Well, I think the first thing we need to do is reach out to our local churches and also Jim Leonard, Hands of Hope, those guys, sit them down and have a meeting and start paying attention to the problem, rather than just deciding it's a problem that it's gonna go away. It's not going to go away. It's an issue. Times are tough, and there are people out there that wanna get back on their feet. They don't choose to be homeless, but they're making the best of what they got and are trying to go along to get along and make something happen. I think really, we've got a committee for everything else, it seems like, in this city and counties and everything else. We really need to get a committee together with people who understand the issue, and I think that would really be a hand up on getting the problem solved.
There's more than 18 various organizations, churches, everyone involved in the process with homelessness, trying to mitigate some of the impact that homelessness has on different sectors of our community. Reminds me, though, that one of those the other day was in the newspaper and is highlighted with the comment, picture of a young lady over at the One Stop program, where she said she lives in the river bottoms because she enjoys the freedom. That's a person that's making a choice to be down there, yet we provide services for those individuals. Let's look at it this way. Yuba City created part of the problem. We don't allow camping on the riverside of our levee system. We booted them out of the north end of Yuba City, where we have a very nice park. They try to migrate back in there. We continue to try to move them out. We have fires. That is part of who these individuals are. You get drunk, you light a fire, you don't take care of it, the wind blows, you're likely to burn down the forest. It's unsafe, it's a health risk. These guys don't have bathrooms down there. We need to move forward with a program that will allow for sanitary facilities, and we certainly need to engage more to reduce any impact it has on our youth in the community.
Losing track. All right, Stan, what is the city's role in creating jobs for people in the community?
Good impact fee levels, policies and procedures and ordinances that are not highly regulatory, at least as much as they can, resisting the states and federal push to regulate more. And that's what Sutter County has done. We've actually reduced some of our extra regulations back down to the mandatory state levels. We've already done that. And then public partnerships. A while back they tried to do something which was a job creation incubator. And when it came out, what I had gathered from it, it was basically pushed by city and the administration and members in the city government. I heard that there were some private partnerships involved into it, talking about it. But the only way that they're going to be able to help is if they allow or encourage private industry to put these incubators together, and then give them the policies and ability to help the companies come into these incubators and make it happen. Not government driven, but private industry driven.
Daria, what is your position on the city purchasing property to renovate and rent out, and how does this fit into the role of government?
Well, I'm aware that the city has purchased properties along Bridge Street with the intention that is going to be where the bridge goes through, and they're going to be widening highways. I know that there was questions about the property, a small piece to be sold by the water treatment plant recently. When the city buying properties to rent, I'm not sure what the purpose of that would be, but if it does do something positive within the city that creates more income or more revenues, then I think that it has some validity. If it is for no good purpose, then I would not be behind it. The piece of property that was at the, near the water treatment plant was a very small strip of land. I know that it wasn't a popular decision, but I could not see myself where it could be utilized at this time for anything more than expanding those yards and making the properties more sellable. So that's, I guess, where I stand. I think it's individual based on what that would be. I don't think that that should be the business of the city. I don't think it should be a focus, but there could be pinpointed or targeted places where it is helpful. And I'm glad that they have purchased those properties on Bridge Street so that we can expand that road and have access decently 4 lanes through there.
From the audience, Jason, what do you think of Planned Parenthood? And would you support efforts to rid Yuba City of their presence?
If there was anything I could do to get rid of Planned Parenthood, it would definitely be on the top of my list on the chopping block. I don't want to go into what it does because it's just immoral, and I don't believe it should exist. I think things like the Women's Hope, and there's so many other churches or things out there that can help you along if you have a pregnancy that you don't want or you need some kind of help with anything like that. There's so many other places to go. I would definitely be all for getting rid of the Planned Parenthood.
This question is for everybody, and John, we're going to start down there with you. Do you support the militarization of our police force? What would you do with the MRAP they now have?
It's a very good question because the military surplus that is now available can be of a benefit to the citizen themselves. These vehicles, when used properly, not used in an overforce type environment, can be utilized for rescue purposes. They are almost completely bulletproof, and can be used for extrication of individuals. It takes me back to the Big 5 shooting. The gunman inside Big 5 would have been surprised had that thing back through the doors and a team popped out on him and eliminated the threat immediately. And also taken anybody that may have been injured from that facility back out and not put them into further into harm's way. It's also great for extricating police officers that may be injured and moving on. I have to answer one thing on Planned Parenthood. I wouldn't have a 20-year-old son today if it wasn't for one of those programs. We adopted our son through a program that was, the lady actually went there too late, but went through a Planned Parenthood. So I applaud some of the efforts that they do for the alternative efforts that they make.
I think absolutely some of these items we can actually use in a productive way. I think anything that's used without care is inappropriate, but these items are out there, and if they're used in the right manner, they can be very, very beneficial. And most, obviously our officers and so forth are trained, and it's also another area that we can use as training and develop our force and ensure. We have lots of violence that goes on, and sometimes I feel like we're a little too lenient, and we need to toughen up. And so I think these are venues that we can use in order to toughen up, and the gangs, the drugs, and all of those. We can use these.
When you talk about militarization of our police force or sheriff's, I mean the sheriff's department, that all depends on whether the people of our community allow that to become that way. It has to do with the leadership within those departments. If we as the citizens don't ensure that our leadership within the police force are not militarized in their own minds, in their actions, and in their policies, it doesn't matter whether we have an MRAP or not. They will be militarized. So it all depends on how we allow them to be. It's we the people that need to make that decision. We need to know who our leaders are in the forces, to make sure that if we get this type of equipment, that it will only be utilized for the purpose of extracting officers or things of that nature that are truly what they could be used for. Otherwise, if we have a militarized type of police force or sheriff's department, I would say I wouldn't be approving of them coming to our community. It's we the people that make that decision is what our police force is going to be like.
Just trying to hand it off to me, that's all. So, handing the question off. So the militarization of our police force, I don't like to see that happen. I would hope that with that coming to our community, it would be used wisely. I think it's important that we protect our rights to bear arms and to carry arms ourselves. And I would hope that our local police, if it came down to it, and if it was going to be used, it would be used to protect us, and they'd be standing with us against anything that would be threatening us as a community.
You know, the police overreach is on everybody's mind. Everybody's concerned about it. Everybody's worried about it. The big thing is it comes back to transparency in government and your public servants. I didn't even know they had an MRAP until just the other day. Apparently they've had it a little while. This is something that should be broadcast, we should know about, and it should be put out to the people before we ever take it into our possession as a city. It should be put out to the folks of the city to decide if it's something they want and they feel their police department absolutely needs.
This concludes our questions from the panel. And what we do now is we have a 2-minute closing statement from each one of the candidates, and we're going to start with John Buckland.
Yuba City is a remarkable community. We've talked about a lot tonight. We've talked about how things work. Now you get to take and digest this information. Part of what you need to do is be informed. When you hear comments like, we never knew there was an MRAP here, it was on an agenda. Become involved. Come to city council meetings. We talked about it. We debated the issue. And we decided to replace something that was inadequate called a peacekeeper that came out of the early 90s that a 30-06 can go through and kill everybody inside. So when we talk about being engaged, being part of our community, you are the community. You are the individuals that will be going and voting. You're the regular voters. You're passionate. You care about this community. All I can say is look at who you have. I don't care if it's at this level, because we serve at the lowest level to the people on councils, and as Stan does currently as a supervisor. We get to be engaged as we walk in our community, and anybody can call my house. 7 days a week, not 24 hours a day. I limit that past 10 o'clock at night. But you can call. When I walk door to door, I hand my phone number to every person that answers their door. You can call me. You can engage me in any conversation. Should something come up, again, don't call me at 3 o'clock in the morning with that wild thought. Write it down and call me first thing in the morning. I'm blessed to live here. I've lived here for 44 years. I served Yuba City Police Department for 32. I served you as a community for 32 years. I'm blessed to have retired from the police department. A month later, I was elected onto the city council. I've done my best to serve this community, sometimes 40, sometimes 60 hours a week. This doesn't pay a lot of money, folks, and I'm not here to complain about the pay. All right, stop doing it. What I'm here to tell you is, it's the dedication. That's what goes into this job. It's the passion, the dedication, the time to read and be informed of what's going on in the community, to read agendas, to be prepared to go into the research mode and have a good time doing it. I enjoy going to city council meetings. I enjoy when citizens engage us. I'm fearful when the Tea Party shows up. You guys make good arguments.
We're getting MRAP.
I'm done with that one. That was a good close. Thank you very much.
I just want to add a few personal notes. As a woman, I have the utmost respect for our previous former mayors and council members, Karen Cardicelli as well as Leslie McBride, for being our voice. It's about time that we have a woman's voice back on city council. As a single parent, I'm raising a beautiful child, and my main focus has been and will always be children in mind first. It's our obligation to provide them a foundation to grow and thrive right here in Yuba City. As city council, my focus will continue to be that. As a planning commissioner, I have been very passionate about the work that I do and very committed. I've been doing it for 10 years because I do want to be involved. I love picking up and calling folks. They call me, same situation. My phone number is out there. Pick up the phone, talk to me. That's how we get to know each other. If we're all behind closed doors, we don't get to do that. My number has always been a public number. Same thing, go door to door. It's my personal number that you're getting. You will reach me directly. Nobody else is going to be interfering there. Please call me. Over the years, I've been working with kids. I will continue to do that to be a part of the community. I will focus on programs and activities which are conducive to their well-being, their social being as well, and work on strategic plans, development plans, so that they can have good paying jobs in this community. I don't want our kids to go away. I want to keep them here, as my parents were hopefully lucky enough to keep me here. I love Yuba City. I was born and raised here. I'm not going anywhere. And all I want to do is contribute more to our city. The future depends on what we do today. So we need to continue to expect more from all of us. You know, put our foot down and do something. If we want to make a change, that's what I love about this group. You speak up. It's a great thing. Makes us think. It's okay. And I believe we all want the best for our future generations. Franklin Roosevelt once said, we can't always build a future for our kids or for our children, but we can build our children for the future. And that's my goal. I want to build our children and make them feel successful. I stand by my word. It's about our children, it's about our community, and it's about our future. I have had the great honor with endorsements from the firefighters, Local 3793, the Police Officers Association as well, the Sutter Yuba County Employees Local 1, as well as the Operating Engineers Local 3. I'm also supported by the Sutter Yuba Realtors Association. Actually, we're in their room. The farming community, as well as our local businesses. I am completely and utterly just honored by the support that I've been getting. And I hope on November 4th I will gain your vote so that we can continue on our path to ensure that our future is laying down a great foundation for all of you, all of the residents of Yuba City.
Stan in Cleveland.
The past 8 years, my time and energies have been dedicated to the improvement of the quality of life of all Sutter County citizens. Many of the questions that have been asked tonight, I've already had the opportunity and privilege of addressing within the realm of the Sutter County government and found good solutions to them. Fortunately, it can be said I have been effective and successful in getting many of these improvements completed or well on their way to completion. Here are a few examples of that success. Increased public safety on Highway 99, 4-lane roads all the way down and back, and Highway 20, especially the light out at the very effective with Supervisor Munger and myself in getting the light at Acacia out at Sutter. And also on the agricultural transport roads, many improvements and laid down the foundation for that to happen even more in the future. A staff member and I brought a new innovative idea United States Army Corps of Engineers that solved the delays to our levee flood protection project. I pushed for and promoted a new business-friendly vision for the current general plan and helped in finding practical solutions to the pension and budget problems. These are all things that I was personally involved in and able to bring innovative ideas to. I admit this was not done by myself. I would meet with people of Sutter County and experts on each issue to make sure that the best solutions would be promoted and not my perhaps narrow-minded one. This inclusive solution finding process is what I can bring to the Yuba City Council. Yes, we have a good city. My kids grew up here, went to school here. Now there are wonderful, two wonderful families of their own. I want a better Yuba City. It's a good one, but I think it can be better. So I would hope that you would vote for me so that I can continue this a vision that I've had and direction that I've gone for the last 8 years in Yuba City. A vote for me is a vote for a better Yuba City. Thank you.
Daria Ali.
I don't know where to begin, but first, I would like to say that my number is on my handouts also, and I'm a good listener. It doesn't mean that I'll always go your way, but I will listen to everything and everyone before I make my decisions. It's not about Daria, it's about what's best for Yuba City. I'll use the experience that I have in this community and a lifelong commitment to the other communities that I've lived in. I've always been engaged in my community. I've been here in Yuba City since 2002, so that makes me one of the newcomers up here. However, I've had a lifelong connection here. My grandparents were in Sutter and are buried in Sutter. My aunt and uncle had orchards on Bogue Road. They've also passed. But I've always had a connection to this community. It's where I came and played as a child. It's where I had a lot of my family experiences. So I'm happy to be part of this community. I love it. I have tireless dedication to the city that I live in. I've shown that it's not something that I want to do. I've been doing it for years. I've been president of the Alliance for Hispanic Advancement, and there's not a drop of Hispanic blood in me. I've supported that community and helped to improve that community. I was chair of their Education and Scholarship Committee and gave out scholarships, expanding it to not just freshmen, and it's open to all cultures, but to sophomores, juniors, and seniors attending colleges so that they had a connection to the community and might bring back those resources. So I'm also an AMPLA governing director. I have handled $50 million plus budgets. I'm a fiscal conservative. I believe in developing a debt-free environment. That's how I like to live my life, to pay my bills, to reduce spending if I'm not creating enough revenue, and to work to create enough revenue to keep things improving. So I am fiscally conservative, I'm diligent, I'm dedicated, and I'm here to serve Yuba City. I probably donate to 20 to 30 hours a week at this time, in addition to having 2 full-time jobs.
Jason Riker.
Well, let's start off with what I don't have. I'm not endorsed by any employee unions or any other kind of unions. Apparently, I went to their meetings, I answered their questions. Apparently something didn't come out right, which I do, I answer honestly. What I do have is I have the endorsement of 2 conservative our California Assembly members, Shannon Grove and Tim Donnelly. And I recently picked up the endorsement from the California Republican Assembly. When you have the right people seeking office and you put those right people in office with integrity, we can have a better future. Also, I want to put a shout out to these guys. foundation for individual responsibility. It's a do you know your candidate flyer there in the back of the room. It's a very, very good get to know your candidate flyer, and it puts it in writing of what we all think. It's very, very nice. I love those guys. They're not afraid to ask the hard questions, and there are some hard questions they ask, and not a lot of people want to answer them. So don't forget to vote, and while you're voting, go ahead and vote for me. I'm your number one candidate, number one on the ballot. So I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. This is what we need. I wish the audience was actually doubled here, but this is what we get. And, you know, please get out and vote. It does make a difference. Your votes do count, especially in small elections like this. And, you know, I know some people are frustrated with their local governments and even the bigger government, but it does make a difference. This is where it starts, right here, right now at your local level. So, again, thank you all for coming out tonight. Thank you, Tea Party. We love you guys. Thank you so much.
And this about wraps it up, so let's give them a round of applause. A couple of things. We're going to have the raffle here in a minute for the big ticket for the Liberty Tour, but these are the things I have to say now. This is the script, so follow along with me. On behalf of the Sutter Buttes Tea Party Patriots and the Sutter County Taxpayers Association, thank all the candidates for taking time out of their busy schedule and for choosing to participate in this most informative forum and for sharing their views on the various issues. Thank you. And thanks to the members of our community for attending and for their participation. With a well-informed electorate, they will make a difference on election day. Please feel free to meet the candidates and visit the tables with their various campaign materials and signs. And this concludes the forum portion of the agenda for this evening. And just a little thank you from myself to everybody. And I know it looks like it's kind of a sparse crowd right now, but every single one of you makes a difference in the electoral process. Do not think otherwise. If you go out and vote, and don't follow the old adage, vote early and vote often, but if you go out and you do vote, you make a difference. And you know, this is the greatest country on the planet, bar none, because we have liberty. And if we do not exercise our ability to vote, then we will not be exercising liberty. So pass that along to your friends. I think that we're going to have a heavier than what we think participation in the 2014 election cycle, which I think is going to be a healthy thing for our country. Okay, take your tickets out. Okay. You live for when I want.
Does anybody else have tickets that they haven't put in here?
Anybody else? Okay, all money goes to the Tea Party Patriots for this. Okay, and the winner is, here, you can read it. I don't have those glasses on. Sorry.
Steph Rosenio.
Oh my God. 417-552.
Is that you? Well, come on down.
Thank you, and thank you all that contributed. That concludes our event for this evening. If you want tickets for the tour, the Liberty Tour, Paul has them, and we have them in the back there. I believe Becky has some, and it may sell out. So please get them early. Yeah, get them early and get them often.